Analysis of The Great Gatsby Chapter 3. Short introduction of the elements and theme. Chapter 3 is the chapter where we are introduced to Gatsby for the first time in the novel. This chapter is devoted to the introduction of Gatsby, his character, and the world he lives in. At the beginning of the chapter, Gatsby's party brings in 1920s wealth and glamour into full focus, showing the upper class at its most fancy sides, with all you could ever dream of. We also meet Jordan Baker at the party. In this chapter, we meet a character named Owl Eyes, which get Nick to question the rumors of Gatsby and the illustration of his life like a gap between illusion and reality. Short introduction to the chapter and the position in the novel. This chapter represents the presentation of the story mode. So number 2. In the chapter, Nick gets introduced to the main character, Mr. Gatsby. We have only up to this chapter seen Gatsby from a distance and heard from the other characters talk about him, through Nick's thought about him, but we have never actually met him. One of Gatsby's many features is his mysterious side, and the reason why we first meet Gatsby so late in the book is to keep it mysterious and to build up the moment of the Great Gatsby. In this chapter, Nick gets invited to one of Gatsby's famous parties, where he gets several impressions of Gatsby until he meets him himself. In the chapter, we also meet Jordan Baker, which Nick follows around the party. Lastly, in the chapter, we get introduced to Nick's life in New York, a new fancy life full of parties. Analysis of the chapter. The chapter starts off at Gatsby's party. This chapter is where we get to meet Gatsby for the first time. Nick gets several impressions of Gatsby by the night. The first impression he gets of Gatsby are from his mansion and his party. Gatsby's party focuses on the 1920s fashion and glamour. When Nick arrives at the party, Nick is overwhelmed by the big party and all the fancy things he'd only seen from his window. Everything at the party is described by Nick and down to the last detail. Side 46, line 4 to 8. The light grows brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun, and now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music, and the opera of voices pitches a key higher. Laughter is easier minute by minute, spilled with prodigality, tipped out as a cheerful word. The party is as fancy as it could be, showing off the rich upper class to the fullest. But the party is for all. Folks showing up from everywhere, both the west side and the east side. Gatsby is known for his big parties, and there is no invitation needed. People come and go as they please. In the 1920s, the social hierarchy was much separated into rich and poor, and new money and old money. But at Gatsby's, everyone is welcome. But even though Nick was overwhelmed by the party, he still felt somehow out of place. The impression Nick gets of Gatsby is that Gatsby's a rich man and famous for his parties. The next impression Nick gets of Gatsby is a second-hand impression. The second-hand impression are brought based on rumors from random people at the party. Everyone talks about Gatsby from all around, but nobody seems to know him, and some haven't even met him before. Side 50, line 1 to 9. Gatsby, somebody told me. The two girls and Jordan leaned together confidently. Somebody told me they thought he'd killed a man once. A thrill passed over all of us. The three Mr. Mumbles bent forward and listened urgently. I don't think it's so much that, argued Lucille skeptically. It's more that he was a German spy during the war. One of the men nodded confirmation. I heard that from a man who knew all about him, grew up with him in Germany, he assured us positively. And so they went on about rumors of Gatsby. This gives Nick a lot of impression of Gatsby. Some of the rumors made the impression that Gatsby was a great and big man. But afterwards, while Nick and Jordan still searched for Gatsby, Nick went into a library where he met Owl Eyes. Owl Eyes made him question everything he'd heard about Gatsby and the impression of him. Owl Eyes then suggests that Gatsby's whole life is merely a show, believing that even his books might not be real. Side 52, line 1 to 14. What do you think? He demanded impetuously. About what? He waved his hand towards the bookshelf. About that. As a matter of fact, you needn't bother to ascertain. I ascertain they're real. The books? He nodded. Absolutely real. Have pages and everything. I thought they'd be nice, durable cardboard. Matter of fact, they're absolutely real. Like having a lot of books without even having read them, but they're just for show, like his big mansion and his big parties. And lastly, right before the end of the chapter, the last impression, he finally meets the great Gatsby. When Gatsby introduced himself and smiles, Nick was appealed by a smile. Side 55, line 2 to 10. He smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smiles with quality of eternal reassurance in it. You may have come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced or seemed to face the whole external world for an instant, and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. It understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you just you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had precisely the impression of you at your best you hoped to convey. And a lot of Gatsby's appeal lies in his ability to connect instantly with the person he's speaking to make that person feel important and valued. Not only that the impression of Gatsby is that he is a good-looking man with a lot of money and has achieved great things in life at such a young age, and he even went to Oxford. Nick observed Gatsby from a lot of the night, how Gatsby wasn't in the party but observed it from afar, just staring down at his party and his guests. But Nick also got the impression of Gatsby's mysterious side. Through the night, Gatsby kept getting calls and even talked with Jordan privately about something secretive she couldn't even tell Nick. Lines in comparison to other chapters. In this chapter, we've been presented to J. Gatsby as a great man with big money and an Oxford man. But we've also questioned his background and greatness. In chapter 6, we get it all revealed. His background, how he got his big money and big status when a journalist wants him for an interview, side 112, line 18 to 22. His parents were shiftless and unsuccessful farm people. His imagination had never really accepted them for his parent at all. The truth was that J. Gatsby of West Egg, Long Island, sprang from his Platonic conception of himself. He was son of God. Chapter 3 is all about who Gatsby is and what to believe, but Nick in chapter 6 found out the real Gatsby and everything he had gone through to get in his place. The end. Wah! Yes, I hope it went great. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I hope you liked it. So, thank you for now. Bye.